Right, thanks for coming on. It's short notice. Hi everyone. Tonight on Scottish Paranormal Podcast, we have Stephen Bassett on. Stephen is a political activist for UAP disclosure. You started the Paradigm Research Group since 1996, I'm aware of. And you've been continuing on from there. Do you want to introduce yourself? If there's probably a lot more accolades in there that I've probably missed, that you could probably let the listeners know exactly kind of what you're all about and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a political activist. I set up in '96, registered as a lobbyist on the ET issue. First one to ever do so. That got the attention of the Washington Post. They came out, gave me a big interview, put me up on the business front page, big photo. Suddenly my career was launched. And I've now been at it 26 years. Simple, singular goal, to end the truth embargo, as I came to call it. Used to be called the UFO cover-up, on the reality of an extraterrestrial presence, which the government has known about since the 40s, but made a decision that it would, embargo it, essentially. They couldn't really make it a secret because the ETs come and go as they please, but they just embargo it, meaning we're going to ridicule it, demean it, isolate it, classify it, undermine it, misinformation it, so that people won't touch it. They'll stay away from it. It'll become the phenomena whose name must not be spoken. And they succeeded.
Yeah.
76 years now. And so I knew as a teenager that it was obviously extraterrestrial. Always expected that the government would come and would tell us about it because it would be pretty cool. I love science fiction. And so the idea of extraterrestrials being here was, to me, wonderful.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen. And at the age of 49, I made the decision, this is what I want to get into. End this truth embargo. Get the confirmation from the President of the United States, which I came to call a disclosure with a capital D. It is the prize of this activist movement. I'm not alone. There have been thousands of people over the years who have been working to end the truth embargo. For most of the first 5 decades, it was based upon piling up evidence. Just keep piling up evidence, because once you get enough evidence, the government will have to yield. No, it's not about science. It's about a political policy. And so until you end the political policy of embargo, this will go on forever. And so more people got into the political side of this. We sometimes call it exopolitics, a good word. I like that word. It is certainly the disclosure movement. And the goal is the President of the United States will confirm this extraterrestrial presence in front of the people, to the media, hopefully soon, possibly within a couple of months. It's over. It's done. We've had enough of this game. And that's my job, 26 years on, very singular, very focused. That's it.
Well, I totally appreciate everything you do. And I'm sure a lot of others do as well. The reason I wanted to get you on is, I think you know why, obviously, what's going on in US politics and now with the NDAA. It was mainly to kind of bring my listeners up to speed, mainly what's been happening. If you can just maybe briefly go through the NDAA, how it was kind of put into place to start off with the Act in regards to the Schumer-Rounds Amendment, and then going for there, where we are now in the last week or so, we've been for there. So it's mainly my listeners, I mention it, talk about it now and again, not as in depth as yourself, not as eloquent as yourself, but in regards to it, I'll bring it up, and it would give them a better insight to actually to understand it, because outside this field, as you probably know, nobody knows about it. It's getting more traction. It's getting a lot more traction, even in the UK. But that was the kind of reason to get you on, to go through that, and obviously how it's going to impact us as well, being here in the UK, being one of the Five Eyes, and you know what I mean. So it is going to impact everybody, as you know. So could you start us off where, if whatever kind of starting point you think is good to start at?
Look, yeah, let me sum it up real quickly. The truth embargo the final phase of the truth embargo begins in December of 2017. Major stories were published in the New York Times, written by Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helene Cooper. These stories were really unprecedented, but most importantly, they were accompanied by some evidence brought to them by Louis Elizondo and Chris Mellon. And the evidence was gun camera footage of UAPs. Don't know what was in this footage exactly. It was still unidentified.
Yeah.
But the point is that this was the first time ever that any nation had ever formally released gun camera footage from a UAP intercept. Now, that's a big deal.
Definitely.
Our DOD let that out. And then once it got out, did nothing about it. And so that gun camera footage became the focus of those two articles, which had plenty in them and revealed quite a bit, got a lot of attention. And they were put up on the website of the New York Times. Since then, they've been seen by probably 1 billion times all over the world. And that's the beginning, December of 2017. Over the next 3 years, a lot was going on behind the scenes. A lot of coverage, certainly, by the media, which I chronicle on my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org, under Resources Print Media Archive. 15,000 articles are linked. You can go read all 15,000. There's approaching 1,800 for this year, the most ever. This is curated from twice or 3 times as many. This is basically the mainstream, professional press, not just anything out there. Over the next 3 years, a lot's going on behind the scenes, a lot of media coverage, a lot of movement, as we also went through difficult times here in the United States, as did the UK. Political, epidemiological, and geopolitical. But nevertheless, progress was made. But the final act, I think, of this saga begins in 2020 when the Congress, the Senate Intelligence Committee, makes the decision to move on this. The appropriate committee, to be sure. So Marco Rubio and others formulated some legislation. Not just any legislation. They put it in the National Defense Authorization Act, which is one of our major bills, authorizing the expenses and the basis by which the government is going to be U.S. is going to be protected. So this was the first tranche of legislation, the 2021 NDAA, signed in December of 2020 by the president. It was followed the next year by another piece of legislation, again in the 2022 NDAA, and this was twice as large as the other. It helped set up AARO, provided a lot of structure to what we'll call the disclosure process. And then in 2022, another bill was signed, the 2023 NDAA, and this was even more comprehensive. This established witness protections and other matters, fleshed out the AARO, a substantial piece of legislation, twice as large as the one before. And then comes this year. This year, a great deal has happened. But one of the things that happened was the fourth piece of legislation was formulated, as before, primarily from the Senate and the Senate Intel Committee. All previous 3 Senate-submitted bills were passed after reconciliation with the House of Representatives, almost without any redactions. A couple of small changes, weren't huge. This one was a big bill. This one was the final infrastructure, frankly, legal infrastructure, to begin immediately the process by which everything the government knows on this subject of unidentified phenomena, extraterrestrial presence, and the history of the truth embargo was eventually going to come out of the classified world through a process of review, so forth, and end up in the National Archives. All of it, starting immediately. Now, it might take several years before all of it gets out, but nevertheless, it was going to begin. And that, establishing that process and setting up AARO and all of this infrastructure was all about preparing for the disclosure event, preparing for the day after the President of the United States confirms the extraterrestrial presence, which we call disclosure with a capital D. It was not about, as some mistakenly think, the government finally getting around to trying to find out what this is. That's ridiculous. The government's known about it forever. And so it was about preparing for disclosure itself. But they couldn't say that, because if they said that, that would be disclosure, right? And so they had to walk this difficult, complex path, not saying this, not saying that, being really mendacious at times to try to get the DOD involved properly, get the members of Congress involved, and just keep it in a package and a process that was going to be okay, at least from the standpoint of these individuals, because they don't need to take too much risk. They have concerns. I would have been more aggressive, but it's okay. And so the process has been to establish this platform. This bill did it. But this bill, which was introduced by not just a member of the Senate Intel Committee, but by the Senate Majority Leader, one of the most powerful members in our government, Senator Chuck Schumer, this got a lot of attention. And when he announced this bill, when he announced the language that he and Michael Rounds were going to put into what was already submitted, it expanded it to 70 pages, making it more than twice as large as the previous one, right? In fact, as large as all three previous bills put together. And this bill basically went for the home run, grand slam, all right? The bill is going to include eminent domain. The government would make it clear that the non-human technology that David Grush had come forward and testified under oath about belonged to the government. It was going to set up a review board that was appointed by the president. And it was going to give the highest classification status to the review board and certain members of Congress and certain committees as part of the oversight. And it was going to give them subpoena power, meaning they could pull anybody from anywhere in the government to come forward and talk to them. Not a criminal proceeding, but we want to talk to you. And if they don't agree, then you subpoena them. That's the grand slam. That's the ball game. That forced the fundamental opposition to ending the truth embargo out of cover. They could not, the previous three bills did not threaten their interest. This one did. And so what happened was we got very serious pushback against the Senate bill as it goes into what we call in the US reconciliation between the Senate and the House of versions. That's how we do it here. And so ultimately there is a final bill, which may or may not have changes, usually has some changes. That then is resubmitted to the House and the Senate to be voted again. If they clear it, then it goes to the president to be signed. And in this reconciliation process, big time pushback occurred. We know where it came from. We know who represented it. It came primarily from the defense contractors, the ones that have been working on this non-human technology, extraterrestrial technology, ever since they came into their hands, going all the way back to the 40s. Let me put it this way. We obtained vehicles no later than 47. That was Roswell. When we started turning them over to civilian defense contractors, it was probably much later. But it's not shocking because we do this with our nuclear submarines, our fighter jets, and our surveillance technology. A great deal of it is developed in civilian hands under deep classification. So something unusual about this, and of course, that's where they put the ET tech. And so they've been studying it, reverse engineering it for decades, but they couldn't capitalize on it. They couldn't make products. They couldn't make money for their shareholders because the truth embargo required it to remain classified. Even for government use, it would be delicate. I mean, you couldn't start flying anti-gravitic craft around and putting U.S. Air Force on them because that would end the truth embargo. So they've been sitting patiently, waiting for the opportunity to cash in. And so when Chuck Schumer said, we want eminent domain in this bill, meaning all that tech you have belongs to us and the government will decide how it's going to be developed. And you may make money from it. You may be part of arrangements we make with you, but we will be the ones that decide it, not you, in the interest of the American people. No way. So they got in touch with their intermediaries, who then got in touch with those members of Congress that were going to be in the reconciliation process, and they said, yank that out of the bill. But they had another concern. They didn't want to be subpoenaed. They didn't want anybody in their world to be subpoenaed and forced to go in front of Congress and publicly talk about what they have done. They would prefer that remain private forever. And so they said, yank the subpoena power. And for good measure, yank the, get rid of the presidential, or not the presidential, but the UAP review board appointed by the president, 9-person review board.
Yeah.
So wow. So the battle went on for days. We got wind of it. There was, they generated a lot of social media response. People were not happy. Then the House stepped in and they started pressing on it and submitted their own bill. I got a little ahead of my skis on that. I thought I was an attempt to supplant the other bill, but it wasn't. In fact, it was an attempt to get this some more language into the overall bill. This was something a little simpler because I think they thought that was going to, the other bill was going to, the Senate bill was going to be, the UAP Act and the Senate bill was going to be removed. And so Congressman Tim Burchett and Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, and some others, they pushed back, went public. They're heroes, no question, in this process. And so we watched and we waited. And the bill was finally done. I say the UAP bill was done. They're still wrapping up on the NDAA, all right? So it's almost done. And so very shortly, it's going to go to the president. It'll be signed on the 21st of December. Now, on my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org, also in my Twitter page, at Steve Bassett, follow me, please. I have both bills up in what I would call easy to read form, because bills are awkward to read.
Yeah,
right? They are. And I have them highlighted, and you can go and you can read the Senate bill as it was submitted, and then you can read the final bill and you can compare them. All right. And what you will learn is this: it wasn't as bad as we thought it might be, but it had the changes that they wanted. In other words, the eminent domain was removed, the review panel was removed, the subpoena power was removed, providing the highest classifications to certain people that are part of the oversight was removed. But the basic essence of the Schumer bill is there. The process, talking about getting information ultimately into the National Archives, setting up some protocols with that, and particularly setting up postponement protocols, which was in the first bill, about if we postpone it, here is what we have to do, we have to explain it. But they really make it clear in this bill that the postponement is potentially unlimited. It's in the power of certain entities. And in that sense, it favors the truth embargo. Now, will it really delay disclosure? I don't think so. The most important thing it did was it did smoke out the contractors. In other words, it forced their hand. And so what we know now as we move into 2024 is that David Grush has said there's a non-human technology, multiple craft in the possession of the U.S. government. Yeah. That has been confirmed by other people. Yeah. Including Tim Burchett, who has said we have extraterrestrial vehicles. Chuck Schumer has confirmed we have extraterrestrial vehicles. And now the pushback by the defense contractors has confirmed we have extraterrestrial vehicles. So that is almost what we'll call informal disclosure. So that's what we've accomplished. Yeah. Now that sets the stage for the final act in the saga. 76 years, it'll be 77 years almost after Roswell. This could finally end early next year and needs to end. And the work that I'm doing now is focusing on that. The bill is adequate enough. It's okay. It hasn't really prevented the process. It's just given a little cover for now to some people that are just not ready to be totally, publicized and totally out in the open on this and have to give up their secrets. And so what I'm pressing for now is what has to happen. And that is a major hearing in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee, our Senate Intelligence Committee, the one that is chaired by Mark Warner, who is sponsor of the third bill, and the ranking member, co-chaired by Marco Rubio, sponsor of the first bill. Okay. And that hearing, which could easily go on for weeks, but 1 week will be enough, could easily take the testimony of about 20 of the witnesses ready to testify. And these witnesses are like Grush. These people have clearance. They're firsthand in many cases. They will have testimony to the vehicles, to the tracking, to what we know, it will blow the truth embargo wide open. 1 week, 2 witnesses in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 5 days, game is over. Once that is happened, once the hearings have taken place, about a week, then it will be quite easy for the president to come forward and confirm the ET presence, the non-human presence to the world, to the American people, by simply acknowledging what he has seen and what we have all seen, what the world has seen, which depoliticizes it and makes it more of a proper process. So the hearings could take a week. The president can confirm within days. That needs to happen in September. And so I just launched an activist project called Shift Storm. Don't forget the F, Shift Storm. It's up on my website. It's up on all my social media, right? Just go to paradigmresearchgroup.org or go to @SteveBassett Paradigm Research Group on Twitter, and you can see what is this process, which is already underway. And it's very, very simple. It's not complicated. There are 3 people that are the target of this project. But they're not bad guys. They're the good guys. Senator Schumer, Senator Warner, Senator Rubio, who have been champions of this for 3 years, right? These 3 people are targeted because they have the most, they are empowered. They have the most ability to hold a hearing for these witnesses. Nobody can stop them, basically. If they want to do this, it's going to happen. It's just, you can't stop it. And so they can hold this hearing anytime they want to. And so this is to get them to hold the hearing in January. And here's how it works. Anybody that's on Twitter anywhere in the world, we are asking them to start tagging messages to these 3 members of Congress. And so I have posted their Twitter handles, right? Those that are not familiar with Twitter, fine, I get it. It's okay. Join up. But in any event, Twitter handles. So you want to tag messages to them. So it would be @Senator Schumer, that's what you need for the tag, @Senator Schumer, @Senator whatever the tag is. We appreciate all the work you've done. Now we must have the hearing for the witnesses in January. We want these military witnesses to testify before you in January. It is essential. We want to put 100,000 tagged messages like that into their notification box. Because when you tag a message to somebody in Twitter, the message automatically goes into their notification box. It doesn't turn up on their feed. It goes in the notification box because they've been tagged. And they track this. They have staffers that track this because they want to know what is being said about their boss on Twitter. And when these thousands of messages start showing up, they're going to go, hello, and they're going to go to their boss or their chief of staff and say, you need to check on this. Then the member to senator will go, bring up Twitter, go to notification, and just scroll these messages, right? And see all of these questions, all of these indications that people want these hearings, people all over the world, right? That's part 1. Part 2, I published all of their email forms. Nobody gives out emails anymore. They do forms. And so you simply go to the form, put your email address in, whatever they ask for, and then put the message in, and it goes to them as an email into the email staffer's email box. And the message is the same thing. We want hearings in January for the military witnesses. All right. We want them before the Intel Committee. Thank you for your work. You're doing a great job. Now let's finish the job. We want 100,000 emails to go into each one of the email boxes of all 3 of these senators. And I assure you that the staff will immediately report this to the member, to the chief of staff, and say, check this out. It's very important. Let me turn that off. Hang on. All right. So that is the basic essence of the Shift Storm. All right. Now, in addition, we're saying, look, don't call the office. Don't rain calls. No. That's not part of it. But if somebody wants to make a call, nice call, polite, thank them for their work and suggest getting these hearings, that's okay too. All right. And so that's the Shift Storm. Anybody in the world can do that email, I believe. Anybody in the world on Twitter can send those messages. And again, these are 3 senators from 3 states, right? But the Senate Intel Committee and this issue, this is a global issue affecting every person on the planet.
Yeah,
And so
totally.
while they may be senators of a state, they stand on the shoulders of history right now, capable of changing history. And so they have a responsibility to hold these hearings on behalf of the entire planet. And that's why I'm inviting people worldwide to get messages into Senator Schumer, Senator Rubio, and Senator Warner. That's what's up right now.
Do you think that if these hearings take place, then down the line they could revisit another bill where they could probably insert eminent domain and like
Yes.
the Groupie Nine back in
Yeah.
there and things like that as well? Because then the pushback potentially couldn't happen after that because there'd be that much
Yeah,
people
exactly. The
behind it.
bill, the bill that Schumer has is the bill we want, and the fact is that once disclosure has taken place, once the confirmation from the president is, which will be followed by confirmation from all the heads of state,
Mhm.
they'll all fall in line immediately. Then that bill could be reintroduced, and basically at that point, the public is not going to have much sentiment for those that just want to hunker down, keep your head down, and those companies that want to make billions upon hundreds of billions of dollars from this tech purely in the interest of their shareholders.
Yeah.
I think they're going to say, no, now the government can cut deals with you, but we have it. It's our technology. It belongs to us. And so I think the bill would pass, resubmitted as exactly it was originally written, and pass post-disclosure as a standalone bill.
Yeah.
So I'm not that worried about it. First, but we have to get disclosure regardless, and that has to come in January. And there's a reason for that. Two very important reasons why they must do this in January, right away. The first one is that for those who are paying attention, we are in extremely dangerous, risky territory as a civilization right now.
Mhm.
We have pushed the limits so many areas, we can't even keep track of the tipping points. But most importantly, we have a bizarre war going on in the Ukraine that has caused numerous top officials to state that the risk of a nuclear event is greater than ever.
Yeah.
And a single tactical nuke shell fired makes that a nuclear war and puts Europe in DEFCON 1.
Mhm.
There is a new, very significant era of terrorism about to begin again. Know where it's going to go, but it could be huge.
Yeah.
Because certain issues have not been resolved, and that terrorism could be nuclear. Because anybody that thinks we have complete and total accountability of all the nuclear materials, weapons, and
Yes.
they're crazy. Okay,
Kidding themselves on. Yeah, definitely.
and so the heat is turned up. It's getting extremely dangerous, and there are other major hotspots in the world. China keeps making moves towards Taiwan, and so if something really goes wrong and we end up with a nuclear situation, this disclosure thing is out of the picture.
Yeah.
It's totally shoved to the side. God knows when we will get that information. God knows when this truth embargo will end. Meanwhile, the world's going to go through hell. So if something awful is going to happen, and it inevitably will, but maybe less likely, let it happen in the post-disclosure world. So somebody's going to fire off a tactical nuclear shell in the Ukraine-Russia war. Let it be in the post-disclosure world.
Yeah.
After everybody on this planet knows that we're not alone in this universe. We have engagement from extraterrestrials. We have technology, and the future is really interesting, possibly unlimited. Let them know that, so that when that event happens, the response to it will be sane. And one of the things I've learned in life, and it's true for people and countries, is that things happen to you. Things happen to countries. And how well your life goes, how well your country's situation is, how it fares, is less about what happens to it or you, but how you react to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's how you react to it. And so we need to be in the post-disclosure world in case something really awful happens, so we will react to it differently. And the second reason is purely American. It's about us. It's not about any other country. And that is that we're going through a bad stretch of politics. It's very upsetting, very irritating, distracting, and wasting. We've had some bad elections. Well, this election coming up could be the worst ever. The most contentious, awful, silly, childish, pathetic election in our history. 2,000 people are going to run for the Senate, the House of Representatives, the governors. Throw in some important state senators. 2,000 candidates on the ballot. And one of two things is going to happen here. Either we're going to get disclosure early in 2024, before the first real primary. I think it's late February, maybe early March. And all of these candidates are going to have a chance to get up to speed on this issue in a post-disclosure world. Read some of these books behind me, watch documentaries, whatever. There's plenty out there for every one of them to go out and get acquainted and find, oh, there's extraterrestrials here. I need to know about that, and get at least some understanding of it, so that as they campaign for their office, they can speak intelligently to this issue, which is very nonpartisan, and the electorate will have some sense of how they're dealing with it, what they think about it. So when the election is completed and our new government begins in 2024, it will be filled with people whose views on the presence of non-humans in this world has at least been expounded and factored in to their election. Or we cannot do this. We can let this truth embargo extend deep into 2024, and these all 2,000 candidates are going to be going out trying to lying and doing the usual crap that they do to try to get elected. Spending millions of dollars to get a job that pays $200,000 a year without knowing what the hell to say. I mean, the idea of non-human tech is now literally hanging, from the ceiling, right? It's everywhere, and they don't know anything. And it won't be confirmed by the president. And so they're going to be asked, well, what do you think of David Grush? David who? What about this non-human tech? Non-human what? And they're going to make even bigger fools of themselves, and the opportunity is going to be lost. And so it is absolutely imperative that Schumer, Rubio, and Warner call those hearings as soon as possible in 2024. I'm going to do what I can. I hope others will join in.
Definitely.
And that is what, again, I'm hoping to see next year.
It's going to be interesting times. It's the most interesting time, I think, anyway, and you probably think as well, in the whole entire history we've been here. It's going to be crucial what happens over the next few months anyway. Do you think?
Absolutely.
Do you think that if there's more pushback for some way or another with defence contractors, through pressure, through political means or whatever, if that pushback keeps happening, there's been talk of reconciliation and amnesty for if there's been some type of criminal acts being made, or if there's been no oversight on these programs and things like that. Do you think that reconciliation and that amnesty will start to slip away the more the contractors push back against the government?
All right, let's be clear. We're talking about a different reconciliation. We were originally talking about the reconciliation of two versions of the NDA Act.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about
truth and
amnesty
reconciliation
in regards to contractors,
Now, there is some witness protection in the third bill, the third UAP bill. I don't think there's really anything significant in this bill, but there is some. But that's just protection for witnesses doing their thing. Amnesty and truth and reconciliation are probably going to happen, but it'll be post-disclosure. It's not going to happen pre-disclosure, I can assure you. Not going to get that through. Okay. But believe me, after the president discloses, I will certainly call for it. I will do my thing and try to get bills out immediately for amnesty. And it's not about the contractors. per se. It's in general, but the contractors will perhaps benefit from it. And that is, amnesty is simple. It means that anyone who is coming forward to speak and testifying and being asked information, right? If somehow in this process they inadvertently break a law, even though these bills are trying to essentially address the possibilities, they could still possibly break a law. And it just means that if you break a law as part of us getting information, you have amnesty. No problem. You're not going to be charged. You're safe. No problem. That's fine. And that will help. That will give people a little more confidence.
Yeah.
A little more willingness to come by. So they don't have to drag it out. They don't have to drag them forward. So we want a lot of information. We want it soon. And so that will help. Truth and reconciliation is another matter. Now, I do not think the instances which it might apply are that great. Truth and reconciliation became a thing and became known to people on a large scale over the South African government when it essentially gave up apartheid.
Apartheid, yeah.
Now, apartheid, I assure you, during the apartheid era, huge number of crimes were committed. That is not the case in the truth embargo. It's just they're not even in the same ballpark, right? So it was probably essential if they were going to learn what happened during the apartheid era to have truth and reconciliation, and basically it worked. Desmond Tutu, I think, got a Pulitzer Prize, a Peace Prize for that, but I'm not positive. In any event, but some crimes have been committed with respect to the truth embargo, and because this is the truth embargo itself is unbelievable history. The presence of the ETs is history as well. Yeah. But history wants and needs to know everything that has happened since the modern era of this phenomena. We probably like to know everything that's happened going back thousands of years, but we got to go to ancient aliens for that. And there's a limit to how much you can figure out. Yeah. But in the modern era, oh, absolutely. And so we need to know everything. And if any crimes have been committed, we need to know about it. And so truth and reconciliation will say, the law will basically say, if you committed a crime, clearly committed a crime, or are seriously thinking you did commit a crime, understand if you come forward and you provide everything about it, every aspect, you give us all the information that you know regarding to that event that is or could be criminal, you will be reconciled to society. You will not be charged. You will not face charges. You will be reconciled. I don't think there's going to be that much need of it, but I think the people would like it. They would want that. And I'll be honest with you. The U.S. has committed so many crimes over my lifetime that I would like to see a blanket truth and reconciliation bill in which people can come forward about any crimes that the U.S. has committed at any time and be reconciled for complete information. But that's just me, the crazy, foolish activist who still believes America can be reformed and take a different path. But that's what truth and reconciliation is about. And it may help get this information out sooner. Those are bills that could be quickly passed very quickly after disclosure.
Do you think going back to 2017 or slightly before 2017, do you think there was some ulterior reason to trying to internally disclosure coming out in some sense? You think something was forcing their hand to try and to look at it more? As in, there's people talk about event 2027, things like that. I mean, so is there maybe, do you feel that there could be something like that where their hands being forced to actually say, right, we need to try and put X, Y, and Z in place to try and disclose this? Or is it just been that much evidence and that much push through the years that's came to a head and it had to come out?
Absent the detailed information for the origin story of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, the group that came together, the 10, we can't go much further than than what you just said. And this is where my position is on this. That at this point, barring a lot more information, which could come out and should come out post-disclosure, I think a reasonable way to look at it is this, that every year that passed from 47 on, certainly in the last 10 years, 20 years, more and more people inside the government, whatever their position, particularly the military intelligence complex, became inclined, leaning more and more towards ending the embargo. Meaning their sentiment was, this needs to end. This thing has gone on too long. And so every year there's more and more people moving into that camp. And at some point, it's kind of reached a critical mass where, look, this needs to get done, but it's not easy. And so what happened, in my view, is that 10 individuals were willing to take the risk. These are essentially people who were, I think, pretty much at the end of their careers. I think they were, retired in a sense, retired from what we'll call formal employment, but they might have contracts, but they're just, they're done in a way. Their career, at least the government career, is over. That doesn't mean they're not going to be making money. Doesn't mean they don't have contracts.
Yeah.
They decided to come forward together as a group, obviously. You want to go far, go together. And also to support each other and come forward with the idea of seeing if they could end this embargo. In other words, that was the reason they came forward. The way they came forward and so forth, there's reasons for that choice and how it happened and so forth, but ultimately that was the intention. And I believe that amongst this 10, there were several who had a plan. But the very first thing they did as part of the plan was deliver the information that created the New York Times articles. That was a big deal. And that was only 2 months after they had come forward online and announced their presence and given an interview. So they just only waited 2 months, and then boom, they hit the New York Times to start the ball rolling. Now, the ball's been rolling for 6 years. Did they think it would take 6 years? I don't know. And this actually may be a good time. Could have taken longer. But it was going to take a while because the New York Times just set the stage. It just launched this issue. First, next, what had to happen is a lot of politicians needed to get brought up to speed. And that was being orchestrated by several people, the lead being Christopher Mellon. And so they're giving these opportunities for these people to meet these witnesses and meet pilots and what have you privately without press and just get up to speed until they got enough understanding of it and comfortable enough. And they're also following the press coverage, which was extensive, that they decided to take a move and literally create legislation. And that took 3 years. And so the New York Times articles appeared in December 2017, and the first UAP bill was assigned almost exactly 3 years later. I think it was December 23 in 2020, 3 years later. And then things have been moving forward for 3 years, slowed down by extraordinary events, without question.
Yeah.
But what's notable, in spite of the extraordinary events of the last 3 years, the disclosure process has still kept moving.
It's still process, yeah.
Right? If it wasn't for some of these events, hell, we might have this thing already wrapped up by now. And so that is my sense of why then the consensus in the military intelligence complex had shifted so much towards let's end this thing, that those 10 people were willing to take the risk. And they took a risk, I assure you. It has not been an easy ride for any of them, and the most prominent of them have had a tough ride. Not as bad as it could have been. Certainly nothing like it would have been if they'd have made that maneuver, say, in 1995 or 1990 or 1985. But okay, they've made history. They will go down in history. And that is how this thing ended. It had to end some way. There's a lot of ways it could have happened. This way makes sense to some degree. And it's been not too long. The world has obviously learned an enormous amount about this phenomenon in the last 6 years. There's been huge amounts of media coverage, thousands of articles over the last 6 years, all archived. The best ones already archived on my website.
Mhm.
And so, again, and the result of that is when the president discloses, it will just not be that big a surprise.
Mhm.
It will not be anywhere near as shocking as it could have been. It will almost be anticlimactic. And then as the other heads of state disclose, again, same thing. So in a way, maybe that's the way it should have been. If you've been in this field a long time, I have colleagues that have been in for 30, 40, 45, 50 years. Yeah, it's brutal this last 6 years to have it stretch out and stretch out. But ultimately, it's 75 years. That's 76 years. If you look at some of the major activist movements in history, they take that long or
Yeah.
longer before you finally get the prize. So we shouldn't complain too much.
And the thing as well, it has got, although a lot of people think it's not got a lot of good coverage with the main media outlets, but it has. There's been a lot of traction with it. It's maybe not had the recycling in the news cycles coming through and through. You would get some other stories, but they're always there, coming through. You just need to know where to look, and they do filter through. As you say, you've got, I could say probably every one of them or most of them on your website, for there. So
You want
yeah,
to know which nation has the most coverage in
who?
terms of articles? United Kingdom,
Yeah,
Daily Star,
Daily Mail.
Daily Mail,
Yep, Guardian.
Express. Okay.
Mhm.
The Mirror. The Times of London is too
Yeah,
sophisticated to how would you say, I don't know, elite to
yeah,
bother, and it's written almost nothing to its disgrace,
yeah.
and hopefully they'll apologize for that. But the number of articles is massive. The UK people who read their news tabloids,
Mhm.
pretty educated on this issue. I've given many lectures there. I've actually had a lecture tour of the Europe that included the UK. I am looking forward to coming back to speak, I hope, to very large audiences
Mhm.
throughout the United Kingdom and Ireland about this issue. Uh, I've had good times there. They treated me very well. I've spent a lot of time in the UK. I haven't been back in a long time, and I think it would be cool if my return to the UK is to speak to the British people, the Irish people, Scottish people about this phenomena and how to deal with it in the post-disclosure world.
Mhm.
I would hope I would be welcomed, and I look forward to that.
Definitely. Well, you know it's going to be needed, post disclosure, because there's so many people going to be needing information. There's so many politicians needing information. Our politicians over here, now are, I couldn't imagine any of them knowing anything, to be honest with you. Although, well, I've got a movement here as well, trying to contact them and email them and things like that. But it'll happen pretty quickly, as you say, as things come on. If the capital D disclosure does happen, and it gets processed, and then especially in the Five Eyes, you know what I mean? So they'll obviously be linked in, and they'll need to discuss it.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting as well to see how, because staying in Scotland, we're under a devolved government. You've got the UK government, and then we've got a devolved government in Scotland, and there's one in Wales, and we've got our own kind of policies and that for like things like healthcare and things. So it'll be interesting to see if this is used as a bit of football to try and get at the UK government if they're not, coming forward and disclosing things that they should be.
Oh, Scotland has actually done a couple things on this issue a little bit, uh, and that's fine. Um, well, you mentioned something I want to follow up on, uh, and that is that you pointed out something very important. The day after disclosure, to one degree or another, 8 billion people are going to want to know something.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's a lot to tell. It's a huge amount of information, and a lot of the 8 billion are going to want to know all of it is right away. So and there's going to be this learning curve where the entire world, to whatever degree it wishes, is going to try to get up to speed on this, get caught up.
Mhm.
There's going to be a massive need for content generation. Certainly documentaries, fiction, fiction based on true stories, right? All that, uh, and other forms of content. God knows that the modern world is great at creating content, but it's going to be in great need right away.
Yeah.
So another project that I recently launched is to service that. And it was launched on November 1. It's still in development, but it's doing okay. It's called the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Now, this is focused on the US pretty much, but we have members that are outside the US. Essentially, the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance was created as a networking entity between the entire content creating industry, the professionals, and the UAP, ET, disclosure, researchers, activists, journalists, witnesses, the whole world, that UAP, what we'll call UAP world, who have been working on this forever with very little money while being told they're crazy, et cetera, et cetera. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And make it easy for them to connect. And so what is a nonprofit? It'll be a 501c3. And at this point, we have 25 entertainment industry professionals who are founding members. Their name and bio, or their photo and bio is up on the website, HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. Mm-hmm. And we have 42 UAP ET individuals with substantial time and grade dealing with this issue up on as founding members on that side on the page. We have a board of 20 who are board members. The board these are people that are deeper into the issue, and they're like ambassadors for the HDA. And then we have an executive committee that runs it. So this is the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, and it is nonprofit, non-commercial. We're basically saying here is who the people that are already into this issue, particularly in the film industry, they're interested, get in touch, and we'll help them get in touch, right? Mm-hmm. And then they'll do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
Series, films, docs, whatever. That's their business. We just help them get together, and that's all we do. Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. It has the potential to be very impacting. Mm-hmm. Our goal is to get up to 150, 200 founding members, about the same on both sides, fairly substantial board of maybe 30 to 35 or 40, and be raising money that will allow us to do a number of things as a nonprofit to enhance further this networking process.
Yeah.
Right. And it's modeled after the Environmental Disclosure Association. I'm sorry, the environmental. What am I trying to say? The Environmental Media Association, EMA, that was launched in 1990s by Norman Lear, who just recently passed. Norman Lear was a giant of American television. It was launched with $1 million award banquet to bring the professional film industry networked with the entire environmental activist movement, which was vast. All right. Big deal. And it's still around today, 30 years later. You can go to that site, EMA, Environmental Media Association. We are a more narrow cast concept, but it's basically the same concept, but it's more narrow cast. The issue is essentially the disclosure in the post-disclosure world. Now, the post-disclosure world has a unlimited number of things that are going to happen and an unlimited need for information.
Yeah.
But it's, again, there's a fairly narrow activist movement there, whereas in the environmental movement, there was just countless organizations. So it was a big deal. And Norman Lear, one of his great contributions, God bless him. And so this is the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. We are in need right now of film professionals, content professionals, film, television, entertainment, music, as founding members, because we need to have a balance here. And it's obviously, I've got people lined up in the UAP ET world to be founding members. You know, they're in a holding pattern over Glendale at 10,000 feet. So we're looking for such professionals. If you like the concept, get in touch with me or get in touch with my partner, Dan Harari. Our contact is up there, and let us know your interest and who you are. And if it's appropriate, we'll bring you a founding member. Now, it doesn't cost anything. There's no charge. All you're doing is endorsing the concept and making yourself available to networking. That's it, right? And so we need more of the professionals in any country. Right? It's not just the U.S. Obviously, a massive content industry is based in Los Angeles County, I assure you. all over. Hollywood has come to symbolize it, but Hollywood is just, it's just a little town in the middle of Los Angeles County. It's got a big name, but believe me, industry is spread everywhere and also in multiple countries. And so we have no trouble facilitating networking anywhere. This and now the way media is created, a movie can have input coming from 7 different countries, right?
Yes, yeah, totally.
So it's no big deal. But so we're not limited in that sense. But everyone will be in the same boat. They'll either be in the UAP ET zone or they'll be in the entertainment industry zone.
That's good
So
because the amount of people who's going to be um, searching for knowledge, looking for knowledge, and trying to take it on like a sponge everywhere. You know what I mean? It's going to be apparent. Could you, I mean, in regards to it, I mean, um, from what's recently happened, obviously, I mean, do you reckon this has got a good potential to happen in January, or do you reckon it's going to kind of go further on? Is that a hope?
again, all I can do is point out the logic of it,
Yeah.
that the need for it,
Yeah.
the reason why it's clearly doable. We've had a number of situations over the years where the door kind of opened. And if the door is kind of open, then you tell people to push on it.
Yeah, definitely.
And tell them what the prospects are. I've been accused of predicting disclosure over and over and over again. I get it. It's not what I do. I certainly don't say it's going to happen on a certain date or
No.
whatever. I certainly constantly present the prospects of it. And when it's very favorable, I'm more aggressive. There have been times when I've said, "It's no way."
Yeah.
Right. I've repeatedly said that after 9/11, the whole disclosure process was essentially pushed aside. I mean, it was derailed for years. Right. So, but that's okay. If my label is going to be the eternal optimist, who kept predicting the inevitable, that's fine. But it will happen. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
The truth embargo will end. Period. There's zero chance the truth embargo will not end in a reasonable amount of time. In other words, I'm not talking 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I'm talking months. Years would shock me.
Yeah.
Weeks is possible, but it will end.
We've never been so close as
Yeah.
what it is now. We've never been so close. It's never been as far as this, as the um especially in the US, you know what I mean? But that'll be a domino effect if that kicks in the US, for example, the UK. For us, how long? I mean, how long do you think? Let's say, for example, disclosure happens. How long after that do you think people start talking about abductions and start
Day
bringing
one.
that
Day
to the
one.
kind of forefront?
Day one.
Day one.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
If the president discloses on a Friday night or over the weekend, so that people have a little time to, I don't know, just chill, right? Have a couple of beers and steel themselves for what's coming. And so Monday morning, a whole lot of journalists are going to pack the briefing rooms of every major and appropriate institution in this city. The briefing room at NASA, the briefing room at the White House, the Defense Department, and the spokesperson for these institutions is going to have to come out in front of the mic and start asking questions, answering questions. There will, the press, whether the president will start taking questions. I don't think the president's not going to be taking questions. I think that evening that he confirms ET presence, but will he start taking? I think, I don't know. I think if I were the president, I would let some of the people that know what the hell's going on start answering the questions initially.
Yeah.
Get things rolling, and then follow that and come in. But that's, they're not. I'm only 2 blocks from the White House. If they want my advice, I'm happy to walk on over. I assure you. But on day one, it's going to be a rough time, and as I said, all of that we've seen the last 6 years is to get things together so when disclosure does take place, the government's ready to go.
Yeah, it's in
It's
place.
all set, right?
Yep.
Without that, it's total chaos.
Yeah.
And that's what people are not getting, and I understand that, but I'm happy to tell them. Right?
Mm.
They already know about the ET presence. They've known for decades. This is about preparing for the post-disclosure world. So, but they have a problem. They have a huge public relations problem. This has been an ongoing lie, a transparently ongoing lie for 7.5 decades.
Mm.
There's nothing there. Oh, yes, there is. You're deluded. No, I'm not. You're crazy. No, I'm not. The photo's fake. No, it isn't. And on and on and on and on. They have played this game for 75 years. The emperor's new clothes.
Mm.
In other words, they've been saying the emperor's got a great set of clothes. And like in the fable, the kid said, no, emperor's naked. Oh, no. Okay, well, basically, they've been saying that now for 75 years. And people by the thousands have been writing books and doing docs basically saying, no, the emperor's naked. And the government's saying, no, he's got clothes. And that's the way it is. And anybody who thinks differently is a tinfoil hat wearing nutter.
Yeah.
76 years of this. Okay. And so now the lie comes to an end. And they are facing brutal questions. Look, the U.S. has done some pretty awful things and ultimately sort of had to fess up and face some difficult questions.
Yeah.
But nothing quite like this. This is special. And so Ms. Jean-Pierre, who is it may still be the press person that handles those conferences at the White House.
Yeah.
She's out there on that Monday morning. She's going to get questions almost right out of the gate, like this. Same over the DOD.
Hmm.
Hopefully they'll handle it better than they handled the press conference they gave in 1997. Ms. Jean-Pierre, when did the government really know that there was this non-human presence, this ET presence? Answer, 1947. Maybe sooner. Could have been 45. Could have been 43. 1947. Oh, really? Why didn't the government tell us then? National security. Okay. All right. Next question. How long has the government had access to this non-human tech and has been researching and engineering it? Since the early 1950s, 40s? Really? Why wasn't that technology made available to the American people or whatever to deal with the mounting problems we have?
Yeah.
National security. Oh, okay. All right, fine. Next question. We have heard and seen a lot from many people, researchers and what have you, about the fact that these extraterrestrials that now we know are here are taking people from their bedrooms, from their homes, even from their cars, and they're dealing with them in some form or fashion and then returning them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that happening? Answer, yes. You see, this isn't 1969. This isn't 1980. There's been huge amounts of written about this phenomena. These journalists know how to read. They can watch documentaries. They know about the contact phenomena. It's going to be asked on day one. The answer is yes. Next question. Why didn't the government do something about it? Answer, there's nothing we could do about it. Are you starting to see the public relations problems they're having here?
Yeah.
You see how tough this is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets worse. I mean, I can keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
The relations just gets worse and worse. And so the other very important reason we're going through this whole mishigash to create all this structure and everything and do the right thing, even though they can't acknowledge the thing that they're doing the right thing for, is the people will be more reasonable. Hey, you did the right thing. You set up the organizations. You've done the hearings. You've established the basis to get this information to us. Let's just move forward together, right? Let's don't litigate the past. Let bygones be bygones.
Mm-hmm.
It's a public relations maneuver as well as a preparation for the post-disclosure world. And once you get that, it all makes sense. And I have been doing scores and scores of podcasts giving that message over and over again. Nobody is doing this on mainstream media, not on News Nation, not on Fox, not on ABC,
Exactly,
NBC, or anywhere else. They're just not
Mhm.
doing that. But I am, because as an activist, I think it's the right thing. And the reason for that, and by the way, I've had I've had some interviews scheduled at the last minute. I'm just told, don't bother. In other words, somebody flagged them off, right? And said, no, don't bring them on.
Mhm.
I get it, because it's a little awkward, but they're missing the point. I hope CNN, MSNBC gets the point at some point, or any of the other major entities. There is a reason why this needs to be discussed, and it's not complicated.
Mhm.
The government has lied for 76 years. The government has had to misrepresent what's been going on the last 6 years.
Mhm.
It's had to couch its language. It's had to be mendacious. It's had to play games. It's had to be whatever. It couldn't just play it straight. I get it. Okay. But there was a higher purpose for it. They're trying to get to disclosure. And so by letting, I'm not suggesting that they do this, but I'm saying by allowing people to get on major media and say this,
Yeah.
what's happening is that people then understand why they cannot be straightforward and are having to continue to be mendacious as they set up for the disclosure event itself. And what that does is make it more authentic. In other words, they understand it is an authentic effort, even though it's not the truth yet. It is an authentic effort. And that takes a lot of the venom out of it.
Mhm.
Right? It's authentic.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how to put it any other way, but if people don't get it, what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to find out on a Monday morning that, yeah, we've been lying to you for 76 years. And then they're going to sit back and go, well, you've been lying to us for the last 6 years, right? The whole process of getting to telling us the truth, you've been lying your ass off. And so, yeah, I'm even madder, right? Can you people ever tell the truth? And so it's a matter of providing a little more authenticity to the final weeks and months of the disclosure process. Actually, really, I've been talking about this now for years.
Yeah.
Saying, look, folks, it's not about, but they're acting like it. And so when the UN says we've set up an investigative group to look into this issue, it's complete bullshit. All right. The NASA, at least at the highest levels, administrators and so forth, of course, known about the ET presence from the day it was born in 1958.
Yeah.
Was it
Let's
58?
set up a panel.
So again, but I get it.
Yeah,
It's
get it.
I
Yeah.
understand they're coming on board. And they've had and Nelson has been pushed and he's had to say some things which I'm sure he wished he didn't have to say. But I get it. At least they're on board.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that we're on board the boat. Okay. So when the boat finally sails, they can say, we're on board. Don't be hard. Don't be too hard on us. I know this sounds crazy, but governments are like people. Their feelings could be hurt.
Mhm.
They can feel shame. Governments can feel awkward. Governments can want to avoid pain. We do it all the time. Our country does it all the time. The things we will go to avoid any pain or embarrassment is rather large. We need authenticity and we need humility in government. We also need it in our leaders for sure and our people. Authenticity and humility will get us exactly where we need to go. And let me tell you, it's in short supply. I'm hoping that disclosure event will be the trigger, perhaps the age of authenticity and humility. Authenticity, because we've ended the biggest lie of all time, and now it's almost essential to tell the truth. Any attempt to lie after that would be very, very unwise. And humility, because we're not the only species in the galaxy. We're not the smartest species in the galaxy. We're not the most advanced species in the galaxy. And pick any level, right? Pick anything. There's entities out there doing it better than us. We're part of something so vast, it's almost impossible to describe. And yet we are important. We are unique. We are who we are. and that's something to be. It's important.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
when it comes to the best things we do, proud. But let me tell you, if you can't be humble before the reality of the extraterrestrial presence, then you will never find humility. And there's some people governing us right now who will never find humility. And the sooner they're gone from the stage, out of our lives,
Yeah.
the better. And I'm talking about globally, not just to the US.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Arrogance uh, and duplicity, hypocrisy,
Hmm.
they don't work. All you get is pain and suffering and things blowing up, for God's sake. So I'm hoping disclosure brings in the great age of authenticity, humility, and the great age of reform, which is what authenticity and humility leads to, where we actually start fixing things instead of blowing things up.
Hmm.
That would be
It'd be,
nice.
it'd be a
Okay.
difference. It'd be a difference anyway, definitely.
Yeah. So that's why I do what I do. I hope I'm right. I could be wrong. We might squander this opportunity. We've squandered many others.
I hope we don't.
Uh,
Hope we
but
don't.
this
I
is
think
a
we're
big
really, really close this time, and I really hope we don't. And listen, I appreciate all you do, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners do as well. And do you want to tell my listeners again where they can find you? Put all your links in the show note anyway, but you want to just say it verbally so they
yeah,
can.
some quick promos, please. Uh HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. Check it out. We're particularly looking for more founding members in the entertainment industry. All right, professionals. Okay. Shiftstorm at Shiftstorm, don't forget the F.org. You can find out everything you need to know and be part of it. We need you now, by the way. I mean, by the end of the month, but they come back from vacation around January 2, 3, somewhere in there. And we want that their email boxes and Twitter notification boxes filled with thousands and thousands and thousands of basic, polite, but firm requests. We want those hearings. We want them in January. Okay. Also, I will be speaking February. I think it's 9 to 12, but you have to check the Conscious Life Expo, LAX Hilton, Los
Mhm.
Angeles. Anticipating 25,000 people will be there. I will be speaking and help to produce the Contact in the Desert Conference, which is going to be May 30 to June 3 in Indian Wells Resort, south of Palm Springs. We anticipate twice as many people as last year. It's going to be a big, big deal. And well, depending upon what happens between now and then, could be quite energetic, to
The bigger deal.
say the least.
Yeah.
And all I can say about that, contactinthedesert.com, and also link on my main webpage is you can buy your tickets when you buy your tickets, but if you want to be in that hotel, you need to book now. Don't wait, book immediately, right? And if you're trying to book other hotels outside of the main Indian Renaissance Resort, the price is going to start going up. You need to book as soon as possible. Get your room. Once you get your room, you gold. Okay. Then you can buy your tickets when you can buy your tickets. So that's coming. And is there anything else? There's one other thing. What is it?
If you don't book a room, you'll need to get a tent.
Uh, my colleague Danny Sheehan has launched his think tank, New Paradigm Institute, now has an office in Washington. They're going to be raising millions of dollars. They've raised some money already. Check it out, newparadigminstitute.org. This is going to be a major think tank with a very substantial, this is high level advisory board and what have you. And it's all about the post-disclosure world. So those that would like to support a think tank engaging the post-disclosure world, donate. Paradigm Research Group will anticipating what's coming, will convert to a 501c3 soon and change its from being what I would call, well, it'll still be an activist organization, but it will be a think tank, and it will operate more like a think tank, addressing the issues of the post-disclosure world. And I'm based 2 blocks from the White House, and Danny Sheehan's Washington office is 1 block from the Capitol. So we're nicely positioned. We'll see what that. So that's my promos. I thank you so much, Christopher, for your time. Look forward to coming and seeing you in Scotland and maybe speaking in the UK.
Yeah, definitely look us up if you're across here. And appreciate all you do and appreciate you coming on tonight at so short notice. So, Steve, it's been wonderful having you on and hopefully speak to you again soon.
Yes. Take care.